Hey everyone, welcome back to another sort of story time. This video is going to be a lot of little stories because today's video is answering the questions that you sent into me either via direct message on Instagram or over on my YouTube community page. I put up a post there asking you to essentially ask me anything. Now, I can't answer every single one of the questions that came in, but I'm going to try to address the most asked ones. And instead of you just sitting and staring at me, I thought, let's do something. So I will put on my makeup while we chat. And if you are curious about the products that I am using, I will have links to everything down in the description box. So before I start with all of the questions that I have printed out, I thought I would do a very quick review of exactly who I am, since there are so many of you that are new. So hi, my name is Marnie Goldberg. I am based in San Antonio, Texas. I live here with my husband of 25 plus years, Michael, and we have two kids. Jake is 24 and Shane is 21. We are currently empty nesters because our oldest has already graduated from college and he lives in Houston. And then Shane is about to graduate as well. He is a senior at Ole Miss, so they do not live here as their primary residence anymore. I never really made this a channel that focused on my family for a lot of reasons, privacy being a main one. I did vlog on a weekly basis for a few years, and while I enjoy the process, it did become rather invasive, and as my kids got older, they wanted a private life, and they did not want thousands of people voicing in on what their life decisions were. They don't even want to really hear from their own parents on that, like so many kids. So I don't focus as much as I used to on my kids. They're in their 20s now, and I can absolutely appreciate that. If you want to know more about my life in general, years ago, I did a video called Draw My Life. It was sort of a trending tag over on YouTube amongst all kinds of different creators. In a nutshell, I was born outside Chicago, Illinois, grew up in Wilmette, Illinois, which is part of an area known as the North Shore of Chicago. It's the northern suburbs along the lake. I graduated from New Trier High School. I know a few of you watching did as well. And then I went on to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I majored in several things, came in as an anthropology major, immediately switched it to poli-sci on the first day of class, and then 2 years in, switched it again to sociology, which is what I ultimately graduated in. And then I went on to get a master's in education so that I could teach, a master's in elementary education, I should say, with a focus as a reading specialist. I was a reading specialist in the Barrington School District for a year for grades K through 3. Then I got married to my husband, who is an attorney. He was then an attorney in the Air Force. He was active duty. When we got married, he was a captain, and came down to San Antonio and was a second grade teacher for 1 year. And then we had our oldest, Jake, at the end of that school year. It was very good timing. Yes, we planned it that way. Luckily, it worked out that way. Since becoming a full-time stay-at-home mom, I used to joke that I was a professional volunteer. I was on the board of quite a few different nonprofits, everything from the Officers' Wives Club, where I was the newsletter editor for a while, to Junior League, to PTO through the preschool. I was vice president in charge of the gala, room mom, PTA officer, lots of those kind of, I sat on the HOA of my neighborhood. I was the Covenants chair for a while as well. I've sat on the board for Jewish Children and Family Services, sat on the board of our then synagogue. This was all covering my entire life, not just before I became a YouTuber. But that was one way that I stayed involved and had interests outside of raising my family. I was also, like I said, volunteered a lot around my kids, so PTA, room mom, that kind of stuff, but also the team mom for their various sports through Little League and the YMCA for 3 out of 4 seasons usually every year. Michael was the coach On top of that, I am a dog mom. So we started with one Westie right when we got home from our honeymoon and have progressed now to currently owning two Westies, not the same dog, that would be a record setter, and our second Weimaraner. I think that sums up most of my background. If I've missed something, definitely let me know in the comments. Now, let's get to the questions in no particular order. I'm gonna start with the Instagram ones. They're honestly easier to read. Did I have another job besides YouTube? I've covered that. Second grade teacher, reading specialist, and full-time mom. Why did I start YouTube? It was a hobby. It was an outlet. I was getting into makeup. I had never been in a makeup or fashion person before and discovered it by accident. It's kind of a long story. After a year of watching other people talk about makeup, I decided to do it for myself because at the time I didn't see anybody my age, my advanced age, I think it was 37 or 38, doing it. And it was just a hobby because nobody in my real life was talking about putting on makeup and doing that. So this was long before sponsorships, affiliates. This was 2010. This was when YouTube was a fun little hobby and maybe you could make a little pocket change. I'm talking a couple $100 a month, maybe. And it was a lot of fun. So do I have another job currently besides YouTube? No, this is very much a full-time job. Now, if you want to hear more YouTube specific questions, I am planning another video like this later in the month, maybe the week of Thanksgiving, when we're all kind of just being with the family. And it's going to be all YouTube focused. And I'll look back at the 12 plus years of my career here on YouTube. Was I ever a practicing Orthodox Jew? I follow several on YouTube and find it to be a very interesting lifestyle. So I'm going to answer this question the best way that I can, knowing full well I'm going to flub it and someone is going to infer something negative from it. But this is a really hard topic to talk about without offending somebody who's looking to be offended, honestly. Okay, first and foremost, I am Jewish. I was raised attending a conservative synagogue. I'm not going to say that I was raised conservative because we didn't really follow any of the general tenets of being conservative as I was being raised. When Michael and I first got married, we raised our children in the Reform Synagogue here in San Antonio, and we have recently rejoined the conservative synagogue instead of the Reform one here. Now, here's where it gets to the part where it gets a little bit tricky. Obviously, we're seeing a huge rise in anti-Semitism right now, although this is nothing new. This has been a problem for eternity, pretty much as long as there have been different groups of people. Now, I can only speak for myself. I cannot speak for all the Jews. I cannot speak for all of any subgroup of Jews. I can just speak for me as someone who's been a Jew her whole life, and so was everyone in my family on both sides. I think there is this fascination, let's just say, with people who are different. Good fascination sometimes a bad fascination. And I know that the concept of Judaism is different for many, at least I'm going to speak from Americans. For many Americans, we are not a large portion of the population. I believe we're somewhere around 1% of the population. And we do tend to cluster in larger city centers. So if you live in a smaller town or less populated area, you are less likely to encounter a Jewish person. I understand that unfamiliarity sometimes can breed ignorance and or fear. Let me clear up a few misconceptions about Jews, at least in America. 99.9% of those 1% Jews are probably Reform or mostly Reform. Even less than that is conservative, and the tiniest amount are what's considered Orthodox. And from Orthodox, even less of that are what you're thinking of, which are more of the Hasidic Jews or the Lubavitcher Jews, the ones that you see wearing the hats and the women cover their hair and with the wigs. I don't even know anybody like that. My entire life, growing up in the Chicago area, being around Jews my whole life, I personally don't know anyone who is an ultra-Orthodox Jewish person. That is how rare it is. But media and books and all that stuff, that's the group of people of Jews that they like to share with the world. But most Jews that you will meet, the vast majority are like me. Like, we go to synagogue, we raise our, just like whatever you do in your religion, it's really, as the day-to-day goes, you can't tell us apart from anybody else. I don't want to make this the whole focus of the video, but I think there's this idea out there that we're all more like the ultra-Orthodox, and that could not be farther from the truth. What are your top 3 tips for keeping your spark with Michael? Looking for inspiration. Okay, this is where if there are young children, or if there are any children in the room, or your parents, anyone you don't want to hear anything that's slightly embarrassing, leave. Fast forward, there's chapters below, just skip to the next chapter. It's not something everybody talks about. It's not something anybody I notice talking about, but it is, I think, an important part of a marital relationship, and that is marital intimacy. If you want to establish a better connection and a spark, you have to do that more often. And we're all guilty. Like, we all get busy, we all get tired, our hormones are weird, we don't want to. I understand all those things. But, they do fake it until you make it. I remember years ago, Oprah did a show on this concept, and there was a couple in the audience that said the best thing they did for their marriage is they committed to having marital intimacy every single day for 30 days. And they could not believe what a difference that made in their day-to-day relationship. Not only did they rekindle that physical connection, but they found themselves connecting on a deeper level, emotionally. And the wife, if I'm remembering this correctly, said initially she didn't really want to, like that was a little bit more than she was interested in participating. But as they got into it, she literally got into it. So I'm not saying that I am practicing what I preach, but I notice when Michael and I start getting snappy at each other and I can't figure out what's going on. It's not a full moon. I don't have my period. So what is it? We're not under any other outside stress at that time. It's probably been a little bit longer than it should have been in between marital fun time. There's all the other things you're going to hear about, respect and scheduling date night and all those things. But at the end of the day, we are biological creatures, and physical intimacy is important in a marriage. Do Michael and I plan on living in Texas indefinitely? So like I mentioned, we came here, maybe I didn't mention, we came here initially because Michael was an attorney in the Air Force, and this is where the Air Force, in their wisdom, decided to station him. I'm debating between the Tartelette Energy palette, and then I got these holiday palettes, and I think they're so pretty. Gilded, looks like that. It's a little more warmer toned. And then I didn't think I was going to like it, but I actually like this one better. Glamour. It's a little more cool toned, but it's also a little more neutral. I'm going to do this one. Okay. So the Glamour palette. And I do have a discount code. I think it's Marnie 15 for Tarte. I'm pretty sure it applies to holiday products as well. Okay. It wouldn't be a YouTube video without some links or some plug. I mean, this is my job. Okay. Starting with Deco. So they picked, the Air Force in their infinite wisdom picked San Antonio, Texas. We didn't know where it was. I will be honest. I was like, where is Texas exactly? And we just fell in love. We fell in love with the cost of living, especially coming from Chicago. We fell in love with the weather. Yes, the summers are hot here, but everything is air conditioned. And when the sun sets in the evening, the temperature drops 20 degrees. It's lower humidity than other parts of Texas. Like Houston and Dallas both are pretty miserable, I would say. Like all day and into the evening, whereas San Antonio is a lot easier climate-wise and cost of living-wise. The lack of state income tax is huge. I will admit there's some other intangibles. I feel like Texans are truly friendly people. We have met many of our long-term friends standing in line somewhere and randomly striking up a conversation. As someone who has lived in other places and spent time in other places, that is not normal. Speaking of other places, I'm using the shade Big City. I have spent time in the true South, the Southeast, and don't get offended, Southerners. I love you people. Because Texas is almost like its own, it's not truly Southern, but it's not a northern state. We're sort of like our own country. I'm joking, but not. The Southeastern people are friendly. They are certainly polite, but there's the saying, they'll invite you up onto the front porch, but they're not going to let you in the house. There's a limit. It's polite, but not friendly. There's also a state pride that we very much enjoy being a part of. I think that started when Michael and I started our young married life off as being part of the military, and that whole esprit de corps and pride in what you do carried a little extra when you were talking about being a Texan on top of that. So for all those things, the tangibles and the intangibles, We do not foresee leaving the state of Texas. Now, our children may make that decision for us if both of our kids end up not staying here and either one of them moves somewhere slightly desirable. We will reconsider, especially if there are grandchildren involved. Will we relocate to another city in Texas? All depends on where our kids end up. If neither one of our kids is here and I have grandchildren somewhere else, I really don't see us staying here. Like I mentioned, I'm originally from Chicago. Our extended family is there. We do not have family here. And if my own children are not here, we will revisit it. Now, if they move somewhere where it snows a lot, cost of living is insane, we will, I don't know, we'll come visit more. But I do not see us voluntarily leaving the state. Where do you get your hair done in San Antonio? A few questions about that. I will put Jenny's info down in the description box. Her name is Jenny. She has her own salon, Gypsy Red. It's like in one of those salon rental places. So it's not a cubicle. Like she has her own space with a partner, Shelly, and she's been doing my hair since May 2020. Do I really wear Walmart clothes on a regular basis? Yes, I do. I started shopping at Walmart, oh my gosh, I don't even know when. Before I went to college, I was wearing Walmart clothes. Obviously, when I was a young military wife, that was all we could afford. Back then, Target was considered the expensive place to shop. And then once I started having, more of a disposable income, Michael left the military and went into private practice. And obviously, since I started working on my own as well, obviously I have the resources to shop elsewhere, and I do. But I will say, I still come back to Walmart. I like the quality of the clothes. I like the style of the clothes. And I like the price point. Just because I can afford to buy more doesn't mean I should. I mean, if I kept that up, then I couldn't afford to buy more. So it's hard sometimes to justify shopping in other places because I absolutely love the clothes there. I have run into many of you out and about in the world, and I'm wearing Walmart clothes, and that's one of the first things you remark on is, oh my God, you're actually wearing clothes from Walmart. Yes, I am. I wear all the things that I share with you. I don't know how people could make a living doing this or build up a long-term following if they just lied to you all the time. I don't know how people could live like that. Are there people that do that? Probably. I mean, I don't know any personally. By the way, it was Gleam in my inner corner, Clink along the lid, and I'm going to use Rare in the outer corner. But yes, I in fact just this morning had my grocery order delivered from Walmart Plus. We've just always been legitimate Walmart people. What was the first car that I ever owned? I got my first car my senior year in college. It was, I don't know what year it was. It was a Chevy Cavalier. That was it. I got it for $2,500, and I drove it from my senior year of college through 2 years of grad school, through my first year of work, and then my first new car was a Honda Civic. And then since we're going to go through this, we might as well just keep going. So then I had the Honda Civic, and then from there I went to a Honda Accord station wagon. Then I had a Honda Odyssey minivan, and then I went into a series of Lincoln Navigators. We leased those. That was when we started leasing, and I got a new one every 3 years. So I think I had four. I want to say I had 4 Lincoln Navigators. 3 or 4, you lose track. From there I went to a Jaguar F-Pace. Then I got a Tesla Model Y, which is what Michael now drives, and I am currently driving, it's hard to do while you talk, a Lexus 450h. What supplements do I take that I cannot live without? I don't really take like specific supplements like vitamins and things like that on a regular basis. I probably should. What I will say is I cannot live without my CBD or CBN Sleepy Time gummies. I do have a discount code, and they did increase it for the holidays. So it is now Marnie 15 for 15% off at the Trusted Lab. And I kind of bounce back and forth between their CBD and their CBN gummies. No reason why. And I will list those below if you are interested. If you are not, that is fine with me. Any big celebration for the 50th birthday? You know, it's funny. I used to want this huge bash, and now I think I just want to travel. We're leaning towards an Ireland trip in the late spring or early summer. Am I still doing the Faster Way program? I mean, have you looked at me lately? Clearly not. No, and I just found it to be unsustainable. I found myself, and I think it's with all these diet programs, that you just find yourself constantly thinking about food, even though that's like the whole point is to stop eating. I felt like that's all I was thinking about. What am I eating next? How am I prepping it? When am I getting that workout in? And I just found that that's not a way to live for me. It became obsessive, and I was not as efficient in my day because everything was about food prep and getting that workout in and tracking all your stuff. And I know that's the way to be successful in a diet, but I need a lifestyle, and I'm still looking for one, so I'm not going to lecture you on how to do it. I do think it's a great jumpstart, a 6-week program, whether it's Faster Way or any other weight loss program, to get you thinking about eating better, exercising, all those habits. But for a monthly basis, I just, no, which is why I stopped promoting it, because I cannot stand behind that. I do want to end with one that was the most asked, and it's a longer question, so I'll try to do my best. Well, actually, it's a longer answer, and it was all about how do you not lose your mind when you're raising young children, those years? Something like, I'm married and a mom in my mid-30s. Looking back in your 30s with young kids, what would you say are your top 3 practical tips on how to stay happy and sane as a mom and wife or in the middle of toddlerhood at the moment while taking care of young children and being happily married? So I don't have like 3 specific tips, but I will say that I think something that helped me was that I thought of being a full-time stay-at-home mom, and that's all. I can't talk about being a working mom with young kids because I wasn't. But as far as a full-time stay-at-home mom, I did remind myself that it is a job. You have to look at it as a job. It's not something like you would not just roll out of bed and phone it in if you were working for an employer, if you were working out of the home. Well, now you're self-employed. This is your job. Take it seriously and treat it as such. Get dressed. Get your day going. Do all the things that are part of being a stay-at-home mom, a homemaker. Make the home. When you do that, or I should say when I did that, it helped me to not resent those parts of my job that I did not love so much. Because everybody has parts of their job. Even if you're like a famous Hollywood A-list celebrity, a YouTuber, a lawyer, a teacher, a garbage collector, everybody has parts of their job they're not particularly fond of. That doesn't mean you get to quit the job. So change your perspective on how you view your role. Something that also helped is that my husband had said numerous times over the course of his career that he couldn't do his job as well as he did without knowing that I was doing my job as well as I was doing. So there is that. The second thing is you need to have something else besides your kids. You need human interaction at an adult level, whether that's meeting friends at the playground or at a coffee shop and mall walking or walking around outside with the kids in the stroller. Do it for your sanity. I had signed up for like mom's club stuff. There's MOPS. There's all kinds of those. I mean, I think there are. It's been a really long time, but there's all kinds. Like I didn't know anybody here when we moved here. You have to put yourself out there and meet other people, whether it's joining something through your church or your synagogue, your mosque, whatever religious institution you go to. There are groups for young moms. I met my very best friend, going on 25 years now, at a young mom's cradle roll is what they called it, and our babies were just a year old when we met there. So, and it does get easier as your kids get involved in classes and activities and actual school, like preschool, you will meet other like-minded moms. And then lastly, volunteer. I know this sounds crazy, but if your child care situation allows for it, volunteer at something outside your house. Get your brain engaged in something other than the tasks of raising a family and keeping a home. Don't neglect that side of you, whether it's a volunteer position, I should say, or it's a hobby you enjoy doing. Find something for yourself. So like I said, for me, a lot of it was volunteering. I was the one who organized the cradle roll through sisterhood at our synagogue, but even a hobby, reading my books is a way for me to escape the world, get a little bit of my own peace and quiet. That's how I recharge, and find that thing. And then just know that if this is not your favorite stage of life, do not worry. It's not going to stay this way it goes by super, super quickly. Now, I have so many questions that I still want to answer, but I am done with my makeup for the day. And this video has gotten long enough. So what I'm thinking is I'll do a day in the life vlog. We are road tripping over Thanksgiving. I'll be in the car for a good 9 hours. That'll be a good time for me to address more of these questions. Things like dealing with anxiety, keeping a positive attitude. These are all things, yes, even me, who you think is always upbeat and happy, I deal with those things too. So I'm going to include those because I think it's a topic that needs a longer time to talk about in my day in the life. So be sure you're subscribed. Thanks for hanging out with me this long, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.